on, and we're going to kind of do more like a talking consultant kind of thing and kind of jam out where Cheston and I get to bring on, a guest, Greg, who's actually been a friend of mine for a long time. And he was the first, friend I knew that became a PT. And we were, we used to do kids' birthday party together in New York Sport Club. So shout out to all the laser tag people. But it's just great now that, you just never know where life is going to take you and how life can reconnect you at the same time. And the field of PT is very small, and you're trying to do the right thing. You end up connecting or reconnecting with the right group of people all the time. So Greg has been listening to the show nonstop and text me and asking me all these questions. So I figure this is probably really good, because if he's asking all these questions, I know a lot of people are asking the same question. So why not just have fun with this and then help him solve some problems and just give different perspective, right? Because we have different backgrounds. So, hey, Greg, welcome to the show. Cheston, what's up, man?
Howdy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Good to have Greg here.
Yeah. So Greg, before we get into it, just give us like a quick minute, 2 minutes background. And then from there, let's just dive into how we can help you.
Yeah, sure. So even before we started recording, I was giving Cheston the background that I think you and I met. It's got to be almost like 20 years ago now. Mm-hmm. We were probably around like 16, 17 years old, just a bunch of bros hanging out in the gym and, learning exercise, learning anatomy, obsessed with muscles and physique. That took us through our younger years. Then we both went away to college. I pursued a degree in sports medicine and athletic training, and I was telling Cheston that, Natty, you went on to do kinesiology. And then, like you said, like ironically, as, life, ebbs and flows and comes full circle, we both ended up, getting our doctorates in PT. Even more full circle, we ended up working for the same company, just in different locations. And just grew from there, and part of the deepest part of my interest in this and learning from you guys and being a part is I was so blessed at a young age to have like really, really influential mentors in my life. And I was telling Cheston, Natty, before you even got on, like, even though I'm a smidge older than you and maybe got my degree earlier, like I've always looked up to your energy, your drive, your just like your overall approach to life. Like when we met way back when, like I knew you just had a different spark about you. And both of you guys, like, yeah. And what, even, the following, that I've had for both of you guys, you have a very clear cut, like pay it forward mentality, right? Like whether it's the reels and shorts, that are on my news feed, like on Facebook, or it's these full blown episodes on YouTube, just that giving back, right, to our, close community within PT. And then that extrapolates, just to anyone in dealing with business, right. And who's not, what, like, business is kind of life, right? If it's a product, if it's people, something in between, so that's why I'm here. I just eager to learn and help change the game and, give the general public a better experience, like in our tight knit world of therapy.
Cool, man. So bro, thank you so much for that. I mean, I appreciate that. Let's get into it, man, because I definitely we want to help.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, run us through what's some challenging stuff you're dealing with right now, and what were you thinking? And then from there, I can just share my perspective, and Cheston can share his perspective as well.
Yeah. So I think I have some notes here on the side. I think my biggest focus was based on I think it was about 2 episodes ago. You guys were talking about like brand awareness and visibility. And I even so long before that episode, like, with my colleagues here at work, or, even colleagues like you, Natty, outside, this industry, we'll call it, right, of outpatient orthopedic therapy is so incredibly saturated. And, you guys hit the nail on the head. Like in my town alone that I work in, there's 4 other, outpatient orthopedic therapy, offices, just like mine. So, and it just goes from there, right? Like I always say, you pick any main highway, like in any town, and it's almost like every 5 miles you hit another you hit another place, right? So now some backstory on my initial location. It was a brand new kind of startup. Like I opened it from scratch myself, turnkey, about 2.5 years ago within a somewhat of a franchise model. Then I unfortunately had some health complications myself, had to step down. The location changed hands, and even more unfortunately did not do well at all. Like all KPIs and productivity immediately dipped like by 50%, just kind of tanked. And I think when I looked at those metrics, I mean, it was in as short as like a 2 to 3 month period, just, yeah. And right. And just some context, like I had spent a full year, again, from the day the door opened to building it up to a consistent 70 visits a week as a sole provider with just myself. And so it was initially just myself, eventually brought on what we call an office administrator, which is like the equivalent of our front desk personnel. And then probably 2 or 3, we call them technicians or like an assistant or a therapy aide, but they were, because they were all in school, they were all on their own part-time schedule. So let's say the equivalent of a full-time therapist, full-time assistant, and full-time front desk personnel. But yeah, then it just unfortunately tanked. Then we temporarily closed the doors, and I made my triumphant return. Doors are open, lights are back on. But now it's starting from scratch all over again, like the day one when I initially had it. So in that framework now, okay, the industry or market is super saturated as it is. We know we have to get brand awareness and visibility. How to actually get there? Almost like what's the roadmap or SOP, right? So both within this company and even just, I'm about 11 or 12 years out now as a clinician. I've never had good success with direct MD or physician marketing. I find every time I go into their office, there's already 5 other companies, brochures and cards on their desk. Their front desk personnel is really not that like interested in setting up a meeting with them. Even if you wait in the waiting room, Dr. So-and-so doesn't have the time, like between their own appointments, to even come out and shake hands, right? You try to schedule, or you do somehow manage to schedule a luncheon, and like, the support staff comes in for the free food. You're lucky if the doc comes in for 5 minutes just to see like what your name is, right? And what you're about. So that's been a scratch. I am going to come back to that though. Now off camera, we were talking about, currently getting into more of a digital media push. And personally, like, again, I've just seen, I'm more of a direct to consumer type of guy. And again, we were talking about, some different insurance models in network versus out of network, whether you have consistent stream coming from MD referrals or direct access. Right now, before this calendar year, my office was predominantly like really heavy on direct access, let's call it client acquisition, right? And so I was just really lucky that I guess in my location, the demographics here lended itself really well to just, that direct access flow. And even if they didn't have the benefits, whether in network or out of network, they could afford our cash based packages as well, right? So that's some backstory there. Then, so I guess the new strategy I want to try, and I'm looking for feedback on, is what I'm calling it targeted marketing, right? So instead of just going in, say to these MDs, just loose ended, like, hey, here's my business cards, here's a brochure, a general physical therapy brochure. Do you mind if I leave it on the front desk? And it just disappears in the mass of the other deliverables that are already there. Or it probably gets thrown out. Let's be honest. Like most of the time, it ends up in the trash. Right? Is targeting. Okay, what is this particular MD or physician all about, and how can I provide value for them and their patients? Right. So perfect example. there's actually a podiatry, like I could almost look at it out the window right now. There's a podiatry office right on the corner, right? Now, part of our franchise model is every single one of our locations is equipped with EPAT shockwave therapy and an anti-gravity Alter-G treadmill. So I'm teaming up with, we have someone within the company that handles our marketing deliverables, digital media type stuff. So I've teamed up with her, like, hey, can we make some type of deliverable brochure flyer that only talks about what's of interest to a podiatrist, right? Mm-hmm. Specifically our bread and butter. If all they do is treat his feet, they have to be interested in some type of weight bearing technology, as well as increasing cellular healing through the shockwave therapy, right? Then I touched on a bit in the intro, my personal background in sports medicine and athletic training. Can I find a sports medicine physician or physiatrist, who are like the rehab specialists, and just leverage my background and say, listen, like this is my kind of backstory. I came up working with all D1 athletes at Quinnipiac University and Yale. I'm now a full-time therapist. Like, how can I help your patients, right? And also I want to give back. Like, if the majority of people coming to me are direct access, they're not paired up with anyone yet, right? So I kind of want to create a funnel system where, I want a connection where I can trust someone to send my people to, and then in return, I want to take care of your people. And then really close to Natty's world, I know he's not the biggest golf fan, but I'm an ex-hockey player turned golf addict. Saying I spent a couple years training with the Titleist company, right? They're like the BMW in the golf world, and I have a specific credentialing for let's call it golf rehab and performance, as a medical certification through Titleist to specifically treat any rotational athlete. It's just that they put the golf context on it, right? So I want to find some type of way to leverage that background, whether it's with a private country club, a public course. I have met a decent amount of physicians who are recreational golfers themselves, and when I talk to them about like, oh yeah, I have this special training, whatever, like, the light bulb goes off, but it hasn't really delivered, right? So that's kind of this awkward limbo where I'm stuck in. I know my own value. I know what I can deliver. I feel like I have a decent grasp of what's out there in the market and what needs to be done. I'm just unclear of the roads I need to take to get there and actually bring it to fruition.
Yeah. Cheston, do you mind if I go?
Yeah, go ahead, man. That's a lot to unpack there, but I'm
sorry. So, Greg, the one key thing you mentioned is targeted marketing, right? And that's one thing that you need to keep that on top of mind. So, Cheston and I have the same mentor, Dan Kennedy. He always talking about, like, as a small business, in any business you're in, you don't have finite amount of, you don't have infinite amount of money. So you're not going to be able to do the Goodyear blip approach where you just put a blip up there and then people just see like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and get tired from there, right? We don't have that. So if you go targeted approach, that's the best way to approach. Now, the way I like to build relationship with physician is all started with, what can I do for them? And most physician wants to look good in front of their patient. So it's all going back to how you treating, how you showing up for the patient, where other clinics cannot show up, right? You touch on, you have 5 clinics within 5-mile radius. I have 15, right? And again, it's New Jersey. You can kick rocks without hitting a PT clinic. Just that's how it is. Then my question to you is, for you to go in and work with more golfer using direct access, you need to create almost like an irresistible offer of what can you promise to help the patients that are coming into your door that other clinic cannot offer, right? So if you're a golfer, I don't golf, but if I know someone and say, hey, I have this golf thing coming up with my boys and I just want to kick their butt, you can say, hey man, I can make your swing a lot better. You're probably going to drive, an extra 20 yards. Like, how does that sound to you? Right? You kind of pin it to something that is measurable. right? Because and here's another thing too. My approach to marketing is never to leverage the title that I have, because no one cares. And that's the biggest thing, right? We're in the medical field. Yes, when I go see someone, I want to get someone who's double boarded, right? My cardiologist is double boarded because I know what to look for. Normal people, they just want to make sure, like, is my heart going to explode like tomorrow? Probably not, right? So I think the way you have to position yourself is create an offer that's speaking direct to your target audience. Let's say you're a golfer. I say, hey man, I can make sure you play 18. And by the time you hit your 18 hole, you're actually not going to lose distance on your drive, right? In fact, by the time you hit to 18, you'll drive farther, right? And I'm willing to do that. And I'm willing to show you that when you come in. Within the first week, if your drive doesn't go up by 20 yards, then that's on me.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you do stuff like that, they're going to go and tell the podiatrist or the orthopedic surgeons, like, yo, this guy, Greg, just whatever he does. Here's the thing. They're not going to be able to tell them exactly what you do because they're not paying attention. People just need to be led and told what to do, right? Because they know how to do it. Our job wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So your message has to be so clear that when people walk in and say, yeah, I want that extra 20 yards when I drive. Hey, I want to be able to walk 18 and doesn't feel like crap. I want to make sure that my back feels good after I play 18. If I have to play 36, I can play 36. Right? So that's the message you need to get across. So when you do anything, you anchor every exercise, every intervention, everything that you do to that one goal. Right? And once you get the outcome, the desired outcome that they're looking for, then you say, hey, by the way, I know you're not seeing anyone, or are you seeing anyone right now for your back? Are you seeing anyone for your hip? Great. Do me a favor. Here's my card. Can you tell them how I just help you play 18 pain-free? And that's it. Right? Because I don't like wasting my time, just like you. I don't like just showing up to doctors' offices because I'm essentially a pest that's uninvited and they don't care. Right? Because we're just numbers and it's disheartening to do those things. But when I show up, I want to show up with a purpose. Right? Because the issue with medical office is that the front desk ladies, guys or girls, are gatekeepers. And they're not going to lift up that red velvet rope to get you back there. Right? It's like going to a club approach. You need to get a table. Right? So how do you go ahead and create that scenario where when they say, oh, you're Greg, right? Cool. Come on back. Right? And you do that by just providing so much value. If like 5 patients of the same doctor hearing the same thing consistently, because you have to target the same message to the right group of people and deliver almost a guaranteed outcome that they can measure and they see value in, then the doc going to say, well, I kind of have to talk to this guy.
Yeah, I do. So, I mean, that's already like very eye-opening, because I never thought of assigning like an objective intent to the, whatever the marketing deliverable is, right? So I'm already, in my head reflecting. So we did, just because we're running with the golf analogy right now, we did do like targeted marketing for my individual location, because currently I'm the only one in the company that, can technically offer that service. So it does say like, now offering, whatever golf program and, the specific address only at this location. But I feel like the message to the public is probably too vague and open-ended. I don't know if it's capturing the intent like you're talking about, where like a non-medical personnel, like our average patient, they want like 20 yards longer, sold, right?
Yep.
Or no back pain when I play, sign me up, right? So I think I'm going to go back to the drawing board and change that a bit. It sounds like, to correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like the strategy is leverage the success story of the patient towards the MD physician, right? To kind of create my own notoriety. But then I guess to backpedal off of that, right? So that was under my previous framework where I had an existing clientele, so to speak, that was predominantly direct access. in order for me to have those successful outcomes, give my deliverables for them to feed forward to their MD, how do I get that back, right? Like the initial, like the leads, as you guys call them, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think Cheston can speak on this, especially lead magnet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like if you create like, an ebook, a checklist, a free report where people can actually go on your website, download it, and you give them 3 things that they can see immediate result. Like, Gary Vee talk about jab, jab, hook, right? So the jab, jab is the value. So, Cheston is great at this where he'll help people customize like what is a good value proposition for the ideal, clients and customer. Right. And then from there, we'll reverse engineer and say, okay, well, if you need to give 3 home exercise that anyone can do at home without fail and see improvement, that needs to be part of your offer. That needs to be part of your things that they can download. Right. So that way they can, if they already, my rule of thumb is that if they have success by just doing the things you tell them to do without paying $1, they are most likely going to pay the money because, wow, if I get this outcome without showing up, imagine what kind of outcome I'm going to get when I show up. Right. And this is where Cheston's come in when it comes to like just nurturing and like just writing email campaign sequences that speak the language. Right. Because if I'm not a golfer and I don't know the language and I'm just talking about biomechanically speaking, you need to rotate, you need hip dissociation, this and that. They don't understand what that means. Right. So like Cheston, how would you go ahead and create something like, let's say for Greg, when it comes to golfers?
Yeah. So I actually want to take it all the way back, just kind of start almost from, to me, like almost a sequential roadmap, so to speak, to kind of achieve the objectives that you're talking about. So being a new startup, let's say, you're in a location, you opened it, it closed, you're kind of back to square one. The first place I would suggest you start is just with your general overall visibility. Like just making sure that anytime anyone hears about you, because nowadays what people do is, even if it's a referral, they're probably going to go online and Google you or go to social media and see, hey, what does their Facebook page say? Do they have an Instagram? What's on their Instagram? So people are taking those referrals, whether it's from an MD or whether it's from a friend or family, whatever, and they're going online and they're kind of doing their own research a lot of times before they ever even reach out. So step 1 would just be make sure that your online presence, it's reflective of the brand. It's talking in their language. It's addressing their particular problems or the solutions that they want in words that they can understand. So removing a lot of the doctor speak, so to speak, and focusing on, instead of the specific biomechanics of certain things, like what's the end result that they're going to get. So in doing that, obviously it's the website, but also another one would be your Google Business Profile. Like every single business has a free Google Business Profile. And to me, I think that's one of the most underutilized assets that a business has, because there are people that are going to Google every day looking for the services you provide. And we simply need to just optimize that profile to make sure that you show up when they're looking. And there's some certain things we can do there, but then from there, making sure that it's optimized to convert, to drive people to your website or a landing page, or to initiate a chat, to start that conversation, or to pick up the phone and call. And then once that's done, then the next step would be just social media. Every single, like we are entering, like we are in the creator economy, where every single business owner has access to literally tens of thousands of their ideal customers, patients, thanks to the phones in our pockets. You simply open up your phone, you do, a short video, Instagram, Facebook Reel, YouTube Short, whatever the case may be. And that is positioning you as the expert, as the solution to the things that they're looking for. And so as they're scrolling through their news feed, they come across a video or a post that you've done, or they get that referral. They go back and they see all this content that you've put out there. And that immediately, when they see that content and they can consume that content, and it's speaking to their problems, the things that they want to address, the solutions they're looking for, it immediately elevates you in their mind. And so even though they may not take immediate action today, like anytime those problems come up, and as they continue to see your content and information, like when that point comes where they're ready to do something, chances are you're going to be the one that's going to call. They're going to call, because of the value that you've provided. Now, taking it a step further, when we're talking about the MDs, like all of that plays into it, because as they see your name, as they get your brochures, as you know, whatever you're doing to do that outreach, like they obviously, their objective is to provide for their customers, their patients in this regard, the best result possible. And so they're going to want to provide them with the one that's going to give them the best results. Now, you know, in some cases, you know, drug reps, for example, maybe they're getting a kickback, or, you know, we can't necessarily bypass that, but you can still provide value for their customers by helping the doctor look good, by giving him something, you know, just being a good referral source. But even beyond that, what I would say is, what can you provide the doctor that can help him provide value for their patients? So maybe it's like Natty was talking about, a lead magnet, you know, the 5 exercises they can do at home to improve X or to alleviate Y, whatever the case may be. And you offer that to the doctor, you know, and you say, hey, I'm willing to, you know, I can give you a bunch of these if you need. Maybe it's just like a print off or a postcard or something that, you know, you have this mini lead magnet report on a postcard that they could just give out to their patients, you know, as they come in. That's definitely a way you could stand out from the crowd, because it's not just a brochure that you're expecting him to read and then say, oh, I'm going to call Greg because I have. No, it's something that tangible that he can use, that he can give out to his patients, that is not something that he specializes in, but it helps elevate his position because he's providing value to his patients, which then in turn, you know, creates that opportunity for you, you know, to have that conversation, hopefully with the patient. So there's that, but then also it's almost like you almost have to take like a guerrilla marketing approach when it comes to MDs and these referral relationships. And, you know, what is it that they're interested in, and how can I communicate with them in a way that captures their attention? So, you know, my wife, I love her to death. My kids are deathly afraid of introducing their friends or dating someone new, because they know that my wife is going to immediately go on social media and stalk the heck out of them and figure out like just all the ins and the outs and what do they like, who did they date before, just like all these things. You kind of have to be that way to a sense when it comes to these referral relationships. As much information as you can find out about them, what are they like, what are their interests, where do they hang out, where do their kids go to school, where do they go to college, like any of those little tidbits of information that you can use to then customize that message and tailor it to them to really capture their attention. And whether it's you find out, maybe they're, whatever college they went to, and, there's a big game coming up. Maybe you go by and you drop off like a pennant or, like a mug or something tangible or physical that's relatively inexpensive, but at the very least, it kind of gets their attention. Say, hey, this Greg guy, oh, wow, I appreciate it. A mug for Penn State or Maryland or, whatever the case may be, so that the next time you come around with something of value or something of interest to them, it's going to capture their attention. So this is kind of a practice. It's pioneered. I first heard about it from a guy named Chet Holmes. He wrote a really great book, The Ultimate Sales Machine. But he talks about something called the Dream 100. And essentially what that is like, as a business owner, anytime you're going after other business owners, we kind of start from an advantage because we know who we're trying to get to. We know the people that we want to talk to. So let's proactively identify those people, create a list, and then almost like create campaigns that we're going to go out and connect with these people and try to communicate, try to deliver some type of message. And, with those people, as much as we can individualize that message to that particular contact, the more effective it's going to be. Now, it's not going to happen on the first time. It's probably not going to happen on the second time or the third time. That's why with this, you almost have to be relentless in terms of getting in front of them, reaching out, dropping something off, sending something to their office. Maybe it's a giant greeting card in the mail addressed to so-and-so, and it's a picture of you with all the different ways that you can benefit your patients, or testimonials, or something to capture their attention. The next month, it's, again, that mug. Maybe 1 month it's a stress ball. Maybe you send pizza to the office once. So whatever the case may be, it's just like doing something to capture their attention that is of interest to the doctor, but then also provides value in some way. Again, like I said, a postcard with the 5 exercises that his patients can do to alleviate X or achieve Y result. And then the next step then would be like these, golfers. So private country clubs, public golf courses, gyms, whatever the case may be. In that case, it's almost the same thing where you're going to them with something tangible that they can use to give to their members that is going to provide value for them. And it's just one of those, you just have to kind of be relentless and consistent in terms of reaching out, communicating, demonstrating how you can help their customer base achieve results that they want. And then from there, as you continue to do that, you're effective at putting out content on social media, establishing your position as the expert, identifying those relationships, getting specific about each individual contact and being consistent with those communications or those contacts that you have. Over time, that's just going to compound. And then you're going to very quickly be that legacy, location, so to speak, that is able to take advantage of the name, the reputation that you've established over time. But you can just accelerate that process by just being very strategic in terms of how you're implementing your marketing, to begin with.
Yeah.
One thing I want to add too is I think there's an advantage in starting from scratch, right? Because now you have some time to reflect on what worked and what didn't, and you have a fresh perspective, right? It's almost like when you have to, let someone go, that the next hire of what not to do, right? And then what you're looking for, and you just do the same process over and over and over again. I think all to sum it up is just showing up in ways that your competitors, other people, would not show up, and you just do that time and time again. I think with doing this for 6 years, I think the one thing I like to say is that I'm just persistent. I'm just more persistent than most people, right? And my wife can attest to that, and that's the whole point, right? If you're a guy, you want to date up, what do you need to do? You got to show up differently, and you got to show up in a different way where it's not just everyone's going to get the girl flowers, right? She's getting like when we were in high school, right? Like on Valentine's Day, they sell flowers. So, and then girls would get multiple flowers from like many guys. Like that day sucks. Like do it on a random day where like she's not expecting it, right? You showing up differently. And can you keep that up, right? Can you stay consistent with the message, with the product that you're delivering? And to Justin's point is when I go out to a restaurant, I don't even look on menu anymore. I go on their Instagram and I see what food they have. And I say, I'm going to order based on that because that looks really good, right? So Instagram, social media has become the new place where people can look for testimony and all of that stuff. See if they like you and your personality. And I know we're coming out on time in like 5 minutes. One of your questions was next to it was like creating SOP and stuff. The best way to do it, and Gary Vee talks about it too, other people talk about it, it's like you document the things that you do. And that's how you create SOPs. Because most of the time, Tony Robbins talked about this. He was talking about most people are obsessed with the how, but not the what and the why. If you know the what you're trying to do, why you're doing it, the how, you can be flexible. And the how is what you document. So if you do this thing and you say, wow, that works really well. Leads went up this much, conversion rate went up, and I get 5 more offers in the business. Great. I'm going to document that, and I'm going to do that until it no longer works. And then you come up with different strategy, or you do a split test, which what we like to do when we run ads anyways, or when we run any promotion campaign, we split test. Hey, we did this last year. Here's the outcome. All right, how do we make it better this year? Or can we run 2 campaigns simultaneously, see which one works better? Right? And then you pick the winner. Again, it's like Kentucky Derby was like last week. Like you want to pick the horses that will give you, your winnings. Again, if you imagine, it's kind of like playing a roulette. Like you can either bet the numbers or you can bet the section. What you're trying to do is, can I split test between a couple things I'm doing right now to see what will give me the best return, right? And then you let the data, the KPIs, show you what the results are, and then the how is the narrative of why do you think that happened. And again, being in the medical field, you have hypotheses that you need to test, right? So you say, I think if I do X, I will get this outcome. And you go and test it, and you say, okay, well, I was dead wrong on that. I did not get that. right? So why don't I try something else and see what we get? And all you have to do is you have to be consistent, and you have to be confident enough that you know you're going to fail, but when you fail, you can get up and then do it again, right? Because the one thing about being in business, and you're an entrepreneur where you take less risk compared to me, you get an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do this again. I'm going to keep going until I find what works. And sometimes things that work stop working. Right. So, like the whole thing back in the day where, you, and again, in the medical field, we are like one bad legislative passing away from like just being out of business. Right. I always thought about that all the time. Right. They can change a law tomorrow saying like, oh, we can't do this anymore. Like dry needling, right? Dry needling was huge back then. They say, oh, wait, you can't do it anymore. Now business start folding because Tony Robbins gave this analogy is that you want to have like a chair with 4 legs, not 2 or not 1, right? So that way, if one fall off, you can at least have a balance to build back up. So when it comes to marketing approach, you want to have as many spokes as possible. And then you want to see if I do this, I can predictably with 80% certainty, I'm going to get this. Right. But now if you do 4 of that and you have like, let's say 60% predictability, know that you're going to get the outcome you're looking for. Now you have different wheels turning. Right. So you're not just riding on a unicycle, you're actually driving a car. Totally. Right. Okay. Golf analogies. You have different clubs that you use for certain situation. Imagine I give you 1 club. Like what people are trying to do is just try to win a golf game with 1 club. It doesn't work because situations are different, right? So your job is how do I give myself as many clubs as possible so that way when I encounter any situation, I have the tool and the know-how to at least attempt to solve this problem.
Definitely.
Pretty good for someone who doesn't golf, right?
Crazy about golf. You know more than you let on.
Yeah. He's a closet golf fan.
Yeah. No, for sure. That was all phenomenal. I love I think my first plan attack is being more targeted with my intent to already be targeted with, a more clear-cut message on a deliverable. Like the postcard idea is really standing out to me. And I could just extrapolate that to a different audience at the gyms, at the golf clubs.
Yeah, at the gyms, at the podiatry office, the golf course. I mean, all of those. What's a resource you can create and give those businesses that's going to provide value that's going to lead them back to you. And then one thing I would add to Natty's point, the lead magnet, once you have that, the next step is, okay, how can we lead them to connect with you, to reach out? A lead magnet's a great way to do that. It's just a report, a checklist, a guide, whatever the case may be that the consumer can download, can access, that's going to provide value up front to help them start to solve their problem. And so, you could create a specific one for each objective, like the runners with the podiatry clinic, the runner's guide to whatever the case may be, 5 steps. Natty's got one on his website, targeted at marathon runners. But for golfers, the 5 exercises you could do at home to add 20 yards to your stroke, or, to get stronger over the course of 18 holes, whatever the case may be. And then with each of those MDs that you're targeting as well, like what's their focus? What's their specialty? And again, postcard has some initial things, but then it leads to a lead magnet opt-in page. And then once you have those, people start going, and also you post those on your Google business profile, you post them on all your social media stuff. So you make them accessible. Maybe you start running some ads, you talked about starting to a digital marketing, campaigns and whatnot. You're running ads to those. Because again, they're very low risk, but they're high value. So as a consumer, it's like, I'm not committing to any type of treatment. I'm just getting some information about how I can add 20 yards to my swing. Right. So it's very low risk, but then that gives you, then you own that attention, and now you can proactively market to them over time through text, email, social media, whatever information you gather. But then it allows you to build your database, and again, proactively market to that database. Again, then you're in control of your ability to grow, and you're not so dependent upon, being reactionary and having to sit back and wait for people to come to you.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
So, Greg, listen, man, I that's all the time we got for today. I
Totally.
appreciate you coming on. Obviously, we want to have you come back on and give us some result
Would
to
love
see
to.
what you're doing so far. And again, I appreciate your time coming on. It's just fun. Like this stuff to me, like Cheston and I love doing this stuff, and it's get us our
I could
wheels
go on for
turning and
hours.
to be able to exactly.
I
So we
literally.
can again. Our goal is to always create impact, right? And the more patient you get to help, and I know it in the right hands with you and your team, you know, that's the best way. Like I can sleep better at night knowing that we actually make a difference by just hopping on the call to help you solve your problem. So again, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. And again, if you're someone like Greg who needs help again, and if you need something almost immediately, book a call. There's a link there. And then if you want to come on the show and then just help us, you know, let us help diagnose some of your problem and help you solve the problem. Yeah, we would love to have that. So reach out to Cheston and I, and then we'll see you next week. Greg, thank you so much, man.
All right. Thank you, guys. Take care.